There's this very famous monk in the 60s who has really this interesting story. And his name was Thomas Merton. And Thomas Merton, he was like an atheist, agnostic, really had nothing to do with religion. He was brilliant, and he was in some kind of Ivy League school in the East Coast, and he was a party animal. Actually, my mother knows somebody whose their mother knew him when he was in college, and they were shocked that he became a monk because he was just this wild partier. So he's at school, he's a college student, and he's not even religious. And suddenly he hears this voice in his dorm room saying, "Go to Mass." So he went to Mass. And he starts to get interested in Catholicism. And then he actually starts going to Mass regularly, even though he's not Catholic. And once at Mass, when he's in Cuba, when the priest elevated the host, he basically says it turned into this sunburst that just blew out his mind, just this light. So he came to believe in the Eucharist. And then he actually gets baptized, and then, to everybody's surprise, becomes this monk. And he's this monk in Kentucky. And he spends his life praying. I'm just giving you an overview. He's noted for his good education. But one day, I'm going to edit the story down. One day, he has to go into Louisville for something. Anyhow, he's standing on the corner of 4th and Walnut. And then all of a sudden, God gives him this vision. And the vision is wherever he looked at anybody, he could see the Holy Spirit, Christ, burning in these people. And he said, people are walking around as bright as the sun, burning with the presence of God. And he said, it woke him up from this dream of separateness. And what he discovered was, after years of prayer, what the vision meant is the Holy Spirit is burning in you and me and you and everybody. And all of us are connected through Christ. We're all one. Then he becomes this great spiritual master. And then towards the end of his life, he gets one more vision. And this vision happened in Sri Lanka. He goes to this Catholic Buddhist conference to talk about prayer. And he goes to see these Buddhist sites. And he's looking at this laughing Buddha and all these rocks. And he said, all of a sudden, once again, this light shone through the rocks and everywhere. And he said it shook him from his habitual state and woke him up that Christ, the light, is actually even guiding all these Buddhists. And what I like about the story is that what you notice is that the voice, Christ, it was actually guiding him, even when he was an atheist. The light was guiding him, even before he was part of the Catholic Church. And the light led him to the sacraments, to be part of the light. And then after years of prayer, the vision opened up his kind of heart to realize, oh, we're all one. And then before he died, opened up more, that even those people outside our church, they're still guided by the same light, Christ. And I like that because it actually deals with the theme of the Good Shepherd in the gospel. Because Jesus says, I am the Good Shepherd. My sheep hear my voice. I have sheep that do not belong to this fold. And then later he promises that one day there will be one fold. And that's what I think is heaven. But Christ, when he says that, it's pretty shocking when Christ says that he's the shepherd, he's the voice people hears, and he's the gate into heaven. That's a little bit shocking to find out, wow, Christ guides everybody. And when he says he's the shepherd, just a little background. If you know the Old Testament, that's what God calls himself. And so it's when Jesus says, I'm the shepherd, it's a way of saying, I am God. And the shepherd, there's this line in the Old Testament I really like, where the people, they think, they're the chosen people. And God gets upset and says, no, you're chosen for responsibility, but I love all people. It was my voice that led the Philistines from Kartor. It was my voice that led the Armenians from Kir, that I shepherd all people. And so in today's gospel, Jesus is saying, I am the shepherd. I'm the one that has guided all people. And then he goes into this thing about the hired men, the hired shepherds. They won't lay down their life. Christ does lay down his life. And his followers, apostles, they all end up laying down their life. But he says, the hired shepherds, they don't listen to the shepherd. They just listen to the wolf. And the wolf, in case you didn't know, is Caesar. Caesar, he controlled Judaism by actually making himself, it was a Roman government who paid the priests. So if the priests ever said or did anything that would conflict with the Roman Empire, they could be cut off or changed. So the twist is he's offering this criticism towards religion. That religion, or the religious leaders, they're more concerned about what the big bad wolf Caesar says, because they don't want to be cut off from their pay. But true shepherds listen to the shepherd, Christ. And Christ is guiding everybody. And I love that. I love that mystical idea that Christ is the voice that is leading everyone. Or kind of the same point in the first reading, where Peter and the apostles, they're at the temple, and there's a guy who needs to be healed. So Peter heals him, and there's a crowd of 5,000, and they see this guy get healed. And so the police come, and they come to arrest Peter, because we told you, stop mentioning the name of Christ. And Peter gives this speech, and he says, well, who do you think really healed this guy? It was Christ. And he gives a speech where he says, there is no other salvation outside of Christ. Now, when he says that, does that mean the Buddhists and the, Canadians, that they have no chance of salvation? No. That's not what Peter is saying. Peter's saying that it's Christ that guides all people. And then he makes this, once again, this hit at religion. When he quotes this ancient prayer where he says, the builders have rejected the cornerstone. And it's the priests of the temple who were adding on and building the temple. And so they were called the builders because they're adding to the temple. And the irony is this. The priests who are well educated, they know the teachings of the Bible. But what they don't know is a cornerstone which all true religion is built on. God, Christ. So there's kind of this flip that, yes, they know everything in religion, but they miss the one part that it's all built on. And I think that's amazing because, for me, I, in my time in Holy Apostles, I put a lot of work into teaching adult ed classes. It's a huge hunk of my day trying to do all this teaching. And I do it really, number one, I don't know if you know this, priests take a vow to teach, not just celebrate sacraments, but to teach. So, I did promise God. But it takes up a lot of time. And anyhow, but the thing about it is, with all those adult ed classes, I'm glad people might have learned something, and I really hope they have. But just because you learn something doesn't mean that you've heard the voice of a shepherd. Because the priests in the temple, they were really well educated, and they couldn't hear the voice of the shepherd. What I really hope during this time of the resurrection, when we celebrate the resurrection, is like Thomas Merton, we're attracted to the sacraments, and then a lifetime of celebrating the sacraments and a lifetime of prayer. Like Thomas Merton, year after year after year, our eyes and hearts are being opened that we can see, we're totally controlled by the voice of the shepherd. That our eyes are open to see, I can see the presence of Christ in other people and guiding all people. Thomas Merton was this great mystic. After a lifetime of prayer, my hope is really this. When you come to church, yeah, you might learn something, but I hope all of us are evolving to become great mystics, just like Thomas Merton. That's the real hope. And some woman actually asked me, how come you don't tell jokes at Mass anymore? So I really try not to anymore. And the reason why is that I do love to laugh. I love to tell jokes. But like, it's not supposed to be entertainment, nor is Mass just supposed to be an education. The great prayer of God is that our eyes and hearts will be open to hear and see the shepherd moving everywhere. That, like Thomas Merton, we'll be part of the light that is guiding all people, not just entertained or learn something. I hope during the time of the resurrection that we remember what we really need to become is great mystics. The shepherd is guiding all of us. And now, actually for these 4 people, they're going to be part of the Catholic Church. And so Nolan and Don, you guys, do you want to come up here for the baptism?